All right, today in your house, we're talking fertility and how age affects it. And it's not just women we're talking about. Joining us with some insight is Dr. Sabrina Fabi. Dr. Fabi, always great to have you.
Thank you for having me, Jen.
All right, so most of the time we talk about a woman's so-called clock ticking, if you will, when it comes to a baby. Break down some of the numbers for me for women. Are we talking early 30s, late 30s?
It's really after 35 that there's a steep decline in fertility in women specifically. And by the age of 45, 87% of women are already pretty much infertile.
Wow, that's incredible. And as we look at some of these stats here right now, in your mid-20s, you have a 25 to 30% chance of conception every month. But then as you were mentioning, I mean, this is incredible. By age 40, you just have a 5% conception percentage. So does that mean most women should be having kids really between like 25 and 30?
Ideally, right? But then sometimes with that comes the fact that some people aren't economically stable during those ages. And so then you have that works against you because you're not able to fund necessarily good health care for your child or good schooling for your child. So there is a trade-off.
Yeah, there is. All right, talk to me about men. As we mentioned, we always talk about women, and I hear of guys having kids like till they're 60 or 70, right? That's always kind of the joke. But do they have a so-called clock? Is something ticking for them?
They do. And so after the age of 40, they actually contribute to 30% increase in miscarriage rates, believe it or not. And so with women, there's always that concern of Down syndrome. That's like a 1 in 300 chance after 35 because of chromosomal abnormalities. But men, on the other hand, have something called DNA fragmentation. They have this increase in the ability of the DNA to fragment. So it's very susceptible to injury. And so diseases or conditions that are associated with male increase in age are schizophrenia. They have an increased chance of 3% after the age of 50. Also a condition called Apert syndrome, where basically the bones of the skull fuse together, as well as conditions like mental retardation and autism are significantly higher in men after the age of 40.
Interesting. Do men lose their sperm count just like women lose their eggs?
It's not necessarily that they lose their sperm count, unless, of course, they're sitting in hot saunas. There was actually a very interesting study that men who just sit in a hot sauna for once a week for 3 months, their fertility rate decreased significantly. And when they stopped doing that for up to 6 months, it increased by 480%. So in that case, yes. But otherwise, it's more that the quality of the sperm decreases significantly after the age of 40, and even more so after the age of 50.
All right, so what do you recommend, Dr. Fabi, in your field as a doctor? We've seen the military, in fact, last week was saying that they're going to allow or actually help fund women in the military to freeze their eggs. Are you seeing more women wanting to do that?
Absolutely, including myself, believe it or not. And so something that we're seeing more and more is right now it's recommended that if you are you're going to undergo some type of cancer treatment, then it's indicated to freeze your eggs, whether you're 13 years of age or whether you're 35 years of age and haven't had children yet. And that's really the only time that it's recommended for both women and then also for men to hold and contribute their sperm.
Right.
But beyond that, it's not recommended. But I think more and more we're going to be seeing that there's a shift because we're seeing people spend so much money in freezing their eggs and then also going through in vitro fertilization that it might be more cost effective if they just freeze them to begin with.
Really some interesting insight. Dr. Fabi, thanks as always for being here.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks for having me.
All right, from the birds and the bees to the